So in this video, I'm going to go through bearings and I'm focusing on calculating bearings rather than drawing bearings. Now, bearings are angles and they are used to measure direction, and bearings are measured clockwise. So if you think of a clock, the clock is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's going in this direction, and that direction is a clockwise direction. And it's always measured from the north line. So whenever we start to measure the angle, we have to draw a north line. So that's a line pointing upwards, because upwards is north. And then we would start measuring our angle. Something like this, that's a bearing of 90 degrees. And we always move clockwise from the north line. So it's this direction and not that direction. Now, bearings are always written as 3 digits. For example, if the angle is 56 degrees, then I write it as 056. So it's always written in 3 figures. The bearing of B from A. So from is a really important word. From A is 120 degrees. This means that to go from A is our starting point. The angle of travel is 120 degrees. So I'm starting from A. That's your key word, the word from. So from A, I must draw a north line, because bearings are measured clockwise from the north line, and then I measure 120 degrees. And that's how I know that this is the angle of travel towards B. The bearing of C from A is 210 degrees. Again, this means that I start from A. That's my starting point, from A. I have to draw the north line. It's already drawn for you. And I have to move 210 degrees clockwise. So it has to be this direction. It is not that angle, because I have to move clockwise. So the bearing of C from A, so that's my starting point, is 210 degrees. And you're always traveling clockwise from the north line. So let's look at this one. It says, describe the bearing that you see. It is the bearing of which letter, from which letter? Well, that's the angle, that's the bearing I want. So it's obviously from A, because I'm starting from A. So from A. And it is the bearing of B. So it's how do I get to B from A? And that's 77 degrees, or 077. This one, well, this is the bearing from Q, because I have to start from Q, I draw the north line and I move clockwise. So from Q, and it's the bearing of P. Now, when we are thinking of calculating bearings, there are some angle facts we have to remember. So firstly, you remember the corresponding angles, which is the F-shaped angles, and the alternate angles, which are the Z-shaped angles. But the one that you will really need to use a lot for bearings is the co-interior angles, which is the U-shaped angles. They're both inside, or sometimes it's a C shape or an N shape. These two angles, and these two angles add up to 180. So that particular co-interior feature is really important. And then we also need to remember that angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees, and angles around a point or around a circle add up to 360 degrees. Those three are really important for the topic of bearings. So this and this and the co-interior angles. So let's have a look. Usually the question would say calculate or find, but most importantly, they will say not drawn to scale. So not drawn to scale, which means don't try to use a protractor. So find the bearing of B from A. So from A, I have to draw a north line. It's drawn for you. And I move clockwise to get to B. Well, there it is. It's already done for you. So the bearing is 0.45 degrees. It's already given to you on the diagram. This is, again, find the bearing of A from B. So I have to start from B. That's my starting point. So from B, and I draw the north line. It's already drawn for me, so that's nice. And I move clockwise, and it's already given. So the bearing is 280 degrees. This one says calculate, so it's going to be a little bit difficult, or not difficult really, it's just you'll have to do some calculations. So the bearing of X from Y, so that's my starting point, from Y. I draw the north line. It's nice that it's drawn for you, and I'm moving clockwise, so that's the angle I'm trying to find here. Maybe I should call it Y. Well, I know that these are co-interior angles. So I know that these two, this one and that one, add up to 180. Therefore, the bearing that I want, which is Y, is going to be 180 minus 80, which is 100 degrees. Calculate the bearing of X from Y. Again, I am starting from Y. I draw the north line. I move clockwise from the north line, and that's the angle I want, angle Y. Well, I know that the angle Y, the one that I want, and this one here add up to 180, which means that my step 1 will have to be to find this angle X. Well, this angle X makes a circle. So my step 1 is to find angle X. And because it makes a circle, I am going to do 360 minus 216. So 360 minus 216 is 144 degrees. So this is 144 degrees. And now my step 2 is to find the bearing, which is angle Y. And I know that these are co-interior angles. And therefore, I am going to do 180, because they add up to 180, minus 144. And that's going to give us 36 degrees. Therefore, if I'm going to give it as a bearing, has to be in 3 digits, 036 degrees. Okay, then I've got 2 examples here. I'm going to zoom in on the first one. Calculate the bearing of X from Y. From Y. So this is my Y. I have to draw the north line, and the angle I want is the angle that is clockwise from Y and from the north line. Don't start from here. Don't say, well, Y is here, so I'm going to do this. No, you start from the north line. So I kind of go halfway through the north line, and that's my angle. So that's the bearing I want. That's what I'm trying to find. But before I find that, I will need to find this angle Y. And of course, those two are co-interior. So my step 1 is to find Y. And Y is 180 minus 115, which is 65 degrees. And then the bearing that I am trying to find, these of course make angles around a point, so they add up to 360. So it's going to be 360 minus 65 degrees, which is 295 degrees. So the bearing that I want is 295 degrees. And the next one says calculate the bearing of X, again from Y. So I'm going to start from Y, but this time Y is here. So I draw the north line. It's good that it's drawn for you. It will not always be drawn for you. I'm moving clockwise, and it's the small angle. Again, let me call it Y. And the angle that I want, they're co-interior. So the bearing is going to be 180 minus 80, which is 100 degrees. That's the bearing. And this one says the bearing of B from C is 80 degrees, or 80 degrees. Calculate the bearing of C from B. Well, the first thing you must do from B is draw the north line. So your step 1 is draw the north line from B, because my starting point is from B. Now, because we're doing calculations rather than drawing this, I don't have to be exact, but of course the north line is 90 degrees. So 90 degrees, it's a perpendicular line. And the bearing of C from B is this angle. And of course your step 1 is to find that. Well, maybe it's step 2. Angle X is 180 minus 80, which is 100 degrees. So this is 100 degrees. And of course, we know that our bearing, this makes a circle. So it's going to be 360 minus 100, which is 260 degrees. But what's really important is that you have to draw the north line yourself. You must remember to draw the north line. And that is the last example.